Before we get into the episode, just want to say huge thanks again to Greg for taking some time out of his busy day to record and hang out for a little while. Dream come true to have you on the show. And secondly, I've had a lot of issues with my Wi-Fi, so my iPhone makes me sound like I have a lisp that is not there. So just in case you wondered, did Tony suddenly develop a lisp? No, I did not. But anyways, let's get straight to the episode. This is the Tony Gebhardt Show, and I am so happy to welcome Greg Maroney. Welcome to the Tony Gebhardt Show. I'll be your host today, Tony Gebhardt.
You know, it was Carnegie Hall. We got in and we played. Fortunately, sometimes when you go to a concert hall, the piano is so different from the piano you're used to practicing on.
Welcome, my friends. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being so patient for the month-long wait for the next interview here on the TG Show. But I'm really happy and excited to invite a really special musician who I've been listening to for a number of years now. And this is a little bit different. I usually interview folks who are blind or visually impaired or who are in the disabled community. But I wanted to change things up a little bit for the next season of the show and really start focusing on the elements of sound, music, and art, and how that has such an impact on people across the world, and especially for those of us who are blind and visually impaired. But I want to introduce Greg Maroney. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much for inviting me for this podcast. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And it's such a privilege to finally get to meet the man behind Wind Chimes and Dark and
That's
just
right.
all these beautiful songs that have just resonated with me, and I'm sure thousands of others the past
Thanks.
How many years. But music has such a way of communicating and has absolutely no discrimination against all people. And what I really want to do is kind of dive into a little bit of what brought you into playing piano, and how did you get that start? What was the early years like?
All right. Well, you did mention two of my most favorite songs, Wind Chimes, which contains the song Breathe, and Dark. As a matter of fact, my wife was just down here in the studio this morning, and she said, you haven't played Dark for a while. Why don't you play it? So I did. And she said, wow, that's beautiful. So she appreciated it. I actually haven't played that song for a while, but I was able to pull it out of the archives and I don't know if I did it justice or not, but I was able to play it anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Back to your question. I played music since I probably started when I was 5. And thanks to my mother, who, made me sit down at the piano, and rather than go out and play around with the dog or be outside, I took lessons and studied the piano. But it's always been, since that time, a way for me to express an inner emotion, or a joy, or a triumph, or a sadness, or something that's I've been feeling. So I'm really thankful that she made me play, because it's given me a tool to express something that's not of the physical world so much, but it's more of an inner insight into how you are emotionally. So music really has the ability to do that, which I'm thankful for.
I love how you use the language, not of this physical realm.
Mm-hmm.
That's really interesting, because music has always been a language that speaks so many different dialects, yet is understood universally.
It does seem to be that way to people all over the world, and people in different states of being as well. I know my wife's mother had Alzheimer's, and she was very confused and couldn't make sense of the world at all because of the input. But I would play a song and she would go, I know that song, or she would be able to sing along with it. So it really, not necessarily on a primitive level, but a basic level to, I think, all human beings, no matter if you're Russian, American, you live in Egypt or in Greenland. It touches all of us. Yeah, I think in this, not necessarily in the same way, because we all have different interpretation of it, but it does reach everybody at a certain level. So it's a kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding. And you mentioned, playing music for your mother-in-law who had Alzheimer's. Have
Uh,
have you ever been invited to do musical therapy for people in that kind of environment?
I personally haven't, but a person that I know that actually lives close by, kind of playing at the same level as I am, she does, and she does quite a bit of it, a lot of music therapy, and I know she's very active in all the therapy groups and has written a
Yeah.
book about it, and she really, does a lot of work with it. So it seems to be
Wow.
effective.
Wow. Yeah, musical therapy has I mean, it's such a niche and super
Mhm.
specialized area. I For a little while I was looking at going into that field, but I got
Mhm.
pulled into working in rehabilitation for people with
Mhm.
disabilities. So, but
Mhm.
music is in that vein. But since you live out in Pennsylvania, out on a
Right.
farm, how long have you and your wife been out on that farm?
Well, probably about 28 years.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Okay.
we met in California. We were both paramedics there, and we met there, and we wanted something where we could uh, find an old farmhouse and fix it up, and live out where it was quiet out in the country. And so we looked around pretty much all over the country and kind of landed by happenstance in South Central Pennsylvania, where we found an old farmhouse on a dead end road by a creek. And we
Oh my
moved
gosh.
there 28 years ago. And we basically gutted the whole house and rebuilt it from inside out, and
Uh-huh.
now we're living happily ever after in our
Yeah.
fixed up house in the quiet out with the cows, and we grow a lot of our own food and
Good
have
for
peace and
you.
quiet.
Yeah, good
So
for you. Well, in an environment like that, it's got to
yeah,
be, super serene and
uh,
beautiful, especially for making music.
it is. Yes, it's that's part of the reason why we did it. Also, just to get away from the rat race, I guess, as much as we could.
Yeah, no kidding.
Live.
California is busy. It's busy out
Yes. Yeah. We
there.
were
Yeah.
from the Santa Cruz, Monterey Bay Area.
Aha.
Uh,
Yeah.
we're glad we got out, I guess, now. So, uh,
Yeah, incredible.
yeah.
One thing I wanted to comment on
Mhm.
was that, you mentioned how nature has such an impact and influence on your music, and I really
Right.
resonate with that. And,
Mhm.
and you mentioned, I have to paraphrase because I don't have my notes in front of me, was essentially that, being gentle and walking with the earth.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
I,
Uh-huh.
I love that. I love
Uh,
that.
yes. I try to live that way. I don't have that quote in front of me either, but when I was thinking that, and I thought, this is really the way I would like to live, where you just live a gentle, honest, and quiet life and do the best you can and be creative. And that's pretty much my philosophy and what my wife and I try to do. So we try to walk gently and, leave a small footprint and create something beautiful.
Yeah. Do you have kids?
I have a grown child. He's still out he's not a child anymore. I guess, to a parent, it's always a child, but
Yeah.
he's out in California still. He's still out there in Santa Cruz. So he loves
Oh,
his
okay.
life. He lives basically the same way we do, is quietly and, you know,
That's
just
nice.
walks gently. Yeah.
That's really nice. So, I got to tell you a funny story. How I found out about you and your music and your
Uh-huh.
philosophy was actually through a friend of mine who is just as equally a big fan of you. And It's funny. I told him, yeah, man, I actually got Greg to agree to come on the podcast. He's like, what? And I was like, yeah, he comes off as super humble and a great guy. I think he'd be
Uh-huh.
fantastic.
Uh-huh.
Um, but music for the blind and visually impaired demographic has always been such an important communication tool and
Uh-huh.
outlet. And I attest to that because I've been playing music myself for over 20 years.
Uh-huh.
And I gotta say, just the piece that really spoke to me probably the most is Dark. And
Uh-huh.
when I look back at some life experiences of mine, I won't go in too much detail, but 2019 for me was a really big transitional and dark year. And around that time is when I discovered your music, and I would have those songs on repeat consistently.
Uh-huh.
So, I just want to first say thank you for that
Oh,
contribution.
you're welcome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's actually an interesting story about the song Dark.
Yeah,
Um,
let's go into
um,
that. That was going to be my next question. So,
During that time, when I composed it, I'm not sure exactly the date that I wrote that song, but I was actually losing sight in my left eye. I had a central vein occlusion and lost about half the sight in my left eye. And it's now resolved. It was a temporary, probably lasted about a month or so, but um,
wow.
it was pretty scary thing. But I
Oh,
can't
I'm
imagine
sure.
what it's like for you, to not have sight. But for me, that's what the emotion was. I wrote the song during that period. Um,
Wow.
so I guess you could relate to that, and
Yeah, no
uh,
kidding. Talk about a very ironic story, I might
yes,
say.
yeah,
Yeah.
interesting,
Wow.
huh?
And
Yeah,
and if it's all right with you, we can edit it in here, but I'd love to
yeah,
throw a segment of Dark on the
yeah,
podcast if we
sure,
could.
yeah, feel
Okay,
free.
great. Yeah. I'll throw
Yeah,
that at the end of the episode. But
okay.
no, it's interesting because everyone's initial reaction to a big significant change like that is dark.
Uh-huh. Right,
It's learning to cope and
right.
how do you adapt and overcome all of those things.
Hmm.
But I'm sure you can attest to living in a very musical world that we use music to help those feelings heal and to
Hmm.
you know for you it was temporary, but for someone like myself who it is permanent. I've used
Right.
music to help me accept and embrace, like, hey, if this is the new normal,
Hmm.
then I'll just use music as my way to remind me, hey, if you ever feel dark, it's okay. Here's that channel where you can
Hmm.
let that out, right?
Right. Neat. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can see that.
And so let me ask you this, with writing music, this is something you and I and many of our listeners can relate to is, if you don't mind, is can you describe a time, in your life where music was your saving grace, or that was your moment of I need to write about this? Of course, aside from Dark, but do you have any other stories where music was that
Um,
instrumental tool?
Actually, not so specifically, but generally, I mentioned that I was a paramedic for out in California, and I was also a trauma nurse here in Pennsylvania,
Wow.
and I did that for 20 years. And I think music for me during that period um, was a release or a safety valve for the things that I witnessed and the things that I dealt with and tried to turn around and heal. But the music always was well, all this really bad stuff happens to people. And, I got to deal with it. But on the
Yeah.
other hand, here's this beauty. And so it was a saving, I guess it was more general, a saving grace for me, over time rather than a specific piece. But
Hmm.
I could probably dive a little deeper into that too. And there are some specific songs that, would qualify for what you were saying. I'm not sure what kind of time frame we have here.
No, we're
Okay.
good. Yeah, no, we're solid.
Okay.
About 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and we'll go
Okay.
until the batteries run out, I suppose. But
Uh,
I also want to
uh,
be mindful of your time as well, because I know it's a little later over there.
no, I have between 9 and 10 for composing music. So
Oh, okay, fantastic.
I'm good until 10 o'clock if you want.
Okay.
But
Yeah, yeah, no,
but
no. We'll go until we feel comfortable to,
okay, yeah.
at a good point. So,
There are
um,
there. Do you want to know some about some couple songs?
yeah, please let's
Uh,
do a dive into some of the
uh,
tracks.
there's a song titled "For Jean," and this is a song written about again my mother-in-law. And we had them live with us for about 2 or 3 years while she was actually, really declining until she passed away. But I was sitting at the piano and she walked into the room and the song just fell into my lap, the song for Jean. And it was for her, while she was sitting there. And songs don't usually come all kind of in one envelope, so to speak. But this one did. And so it's been her song that we played at her funeral. I play it for Linda, that's my wife, a couple times when she's, on her mother's birthday or death day or something. So that's one song that's pretty much had an impact, on
Wow.
our emotional being in life.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's the song Breathe from Wind Chimes.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
And that song was from when my mother was suffering from Alzheimer's and actually was in the throes of passing away. And it was kind of that more emotional, not discontent, but just turmoil that you
Yeah.
feel that the ultimate outcome of this illness is going to be, the passing away, but still they're around and it's just kind of just how I felt, at the time. There was that song, and Elementals was when she actually passed away. I wrote that song, so I guess there
Wow.
has been some kind of sentinel songs. Uh,
Absolutely.
it, Interestingly enough, since I retired from uh, being a trauma nurse about 10 years ago, my music has really changed and has become a lot more gentle, I guess you would
Hmm.
say, a lot
Hmm.
more flowing. Um, it doesn't have quite that passionate, that Breathe and Dark have. So I guess you could say that my emotional health has improved you know, since not having to deal with death and
Yeah,
destruction quite, and,
that's always the running joke is, the best musicians are the most depressed ones.
yeah. That could be, because they
Ah,
have to dive deep into that,
yeah.
emotional state to bring music out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's a good segue to, look at the future. I was reading on your website that you're working on a collaboration with a cellist and a flutist.
Hmm.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about
Right.
that project.
Well,
At least what you can.
yeah, no, sure, I could discuss that. Um, I guess I've done so much solo piano work. I mean, I have, like you had mentioned earlier, a huge catalog of solo piano work. And I think I'm up to like almost 800 songs
Oh
now.
my
So
gosh.
it's a big catalog.
Got a lot of
And
catching up to do.
um, so I was thinking, well, I should probably try something else, something new, and see where that goes. So I met up with a flutist, and she and I have probably released 3 or 4 albums now. And in fact, we have some other things in the works currently. And she is a great flute player. She's able to improvise really well, so I can just lay down, some piano backing tracks, so to speak, and
Yeah.
she's able to lay a melody right on top of that. So
Oh,
it's
nice.
more kind of meditative um, sort of style of music. So I've been working with that, and we're enjoying some success with that. And I also am working with a cellist, and I think the cello and piano are just made to work together.
Oh,
And
you're not kidding.
so I've been writing recently. I've written, oh, I bet 30 or 40 piano and cello songs, of which she's been able to play probably half of them. And then she had a kind of an injury to her wrist and was unable to play for about a year.
Oh, no.
So I used virtual cello, um, and it's kind of hard to tell the difference sometimes. The virtual instruments are getting so realistic now,
They're
um,
so good. I
that
know.
it's I can use it and it sounds like a cello. And then when you're
Yeah.
streaming on something lo-fi like Spotify or Apple Music or something, it sort of degrades the sound anyway, and you can't really tell. So
Right. Right.
I've been doing quite a bit of that, and I really love the cello and piano, and it really inspires, more more songs.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Never a dull moment, I guess.
No, never a dull moment. Well, and that's the thing. Well, an inspiration has no schedule, and
Uh-huh.
it comes down to just finding that next niche and all
Right,
that. So, but no,
exactly.
I'm with you on virtual instruments. I started using native instruments about almost 4.5 years ago,
Oh, uh-huh.
and it's just, oh my God, these pianos are
I know. Yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah, yeah,
Real, you hear the hammers moving, you can hear the
yeah,
foot pedals
yeah,
moving and
yeah,
everything.
yeah. They put some little bit of noise in there, and yeah, they
Yeah.
really thought of a lot of stuff. They felted the keys, and uh, it's pretty neat.
Yeah, it is. Now,
Fun to work with.
what does your software look like? Are you a Logic guy, a Reaper guy?
I use Pro Tools,
Oh, good for
and
you. All right.
yep, I'm a Pro Tools guy, but only because my sound engineer uses Pro Tools. So I basically record either my acoustic piano straight into Pro Tools, or I pull up a Pro Tools session and record a virtual piano and a virtual cello. And then I take that session on a hard drive up to my recording engineer. And, he's younger. He hasn't blasted his ears out with sirens and all of that stuff. So he actually hears he hears all the intricacies of the music and all the frequencies, and more so than what I can do.
Right.
And so I have him do some mastering, and then it's ready for to be released. But so that's how I do it basically.
No, good for you. Good
Mhm.
for you. And so one thing that jumped out at me immediately when I was cruising through more of your information was
Mhm.
Carnegie Hall.
Oh yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah.
I
Tell me
did play
about that. How did
there.
that feel? How did
That was
that
pretty
feel?
cool. Uh, that was a lifetime event. I actually did that with a group of pianists, and that's how we were able to get in. So it wasn't just a solo concert; it was a concert with another couple of pianists. But it was Carnegie Hall,
Yeah.
and
I mean,
we got in and we played. And fortunately, sometimes when you go to a concert hall, the piano is so different from the piano you're used to practicing on,
it's like a
that
guitar. Yeah. It's
yeah,
different.
yeah, exactly. It's hard. But fortunately for me, their piano was a Steinway D, which is a Contra Grand, which is exactly what I have here in my studio. And it felt just like butter to my
Just like home,
fingers.
huh?
Yeah, it was just like home. So I didn't have to combat, the how do you play this, this other dog of a piano. So I could just concentrate on the music and try not to be too nervous of, playing in Carnegie Hall.
Yeah.
So, but it was pretty cool.
Oh man. So would you
Uh,
say that was probably like the defining moment of your career, or is there another
oh
moment where you just shine and you
no, well, of my concert career, probably. Um, I have done some touring, but touring is kind of hard. It's expensive to tour, and
You'd say
um,
that again.
you got to, fly. You got to pay for hotels, car rental. You got to eat out, and it's hard. This type of music that I play doesn't gather huge um, audiences. So, we would play for small venues, and it was a little difficult to recoup our money. So, touring was difficult. And so concerts are, I mean, it was fun to play. Now I do house concerts here in my studio. And so I don't have to go anywhere. People come here.
We can
And
thank COVID for that.
yeah, well, I had done, actually, we've done house concerts for about 20 years now.
Oh,
So for
nice.
quite a while. So
Now,
we
do you live
started,
stream? Do you live stream any of your
no,
concerts?
because only because I haven't figured it out yet. Um,
Uh-huh.
but I would if I could, but I can't. So we won't. So I need some young tech savvy guy to help me through it, but um, I uh, I haven't set it up. We have about 25 people come per concert, and it's nice and intimate, and it's free, and they all love it. I play my new material and some old stuff. I even played Dark,
Oh,
one time, and so sort of go back into the archives, but I'm always making new material and getting it transcribed. So I try to play that mostly. So it's new material for the audiences. Um,
I really adore that you transcribe all of your compositions to put
mm,
online, whether it be in MIDI format or
mm,
score.
mm.
What influenced you to do that? To
Well,
share that that
um,
that creativity like that.
well, people ask for the music. They hear a song and pianists want to play it. Um, so they like to have the sheet music. Unfortunately, a lot of my songs are a little more technically involved and difficult. So some of it's hard to play, but some of it's not. Some of the newer stuff is not quite so difficult to play. It's a little easier. So I do it for, also, it's an income source, for me,
Yeah,
because people buy the sheet music, and so it serves two purposes. It helps me create more by giving us food on the table, and the pianists enjoy having the music, so it's well
sure.
worth it to transcribe the songs and put it out there.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, was I going to ask you? So this is sort of a side question,
Okay.
but there was another pianist that I really enjoyed, and I wanted to ask you if you've gotten influence from him or have listened to his work before. But George Winston,
Oh yeah, sure.
have you? So he was another guy that I really liked. Of course, I wasn't able to get in contact with him. I'm not even 100% sure if he's still alive. But
He's passed away.
yeah, have you ever done any work with him or played music with that gentleman?
No, I have not. But I mean, he was kind of the father of all this new age music. So, I mean, he was way back in the 80s. Jim Chappelle,
Uh-huh.
um, gosh, a couple other people, David Lons.
Uh-huh.
Um, those guys were, doing it way back mid 80s, probably. And they inspired a whole group of, young pianists at the time to, try their hand at this type of music. And George Winston certainly influenced me um, to, play this style of music. I knew I could do it and I could hear it in my head, but he just, him doing it too and getting the music out there sort of made me go, well, look at that guy could do this, and I bet I could too.
Yeah, that
So
was going to
yeah,
be my
yeah,
next question is influence. So I had a feeling he was an influence on you, but I
mhm.
didn't want to assume.
Yeah, he did. Jim Chappelle, who actually has come and played a house concert here, and I was thrilled about that.
Oh my
Uh,
goodness, cool.
and
How cool is that?
and
How
of
cool
course,
is that?
David Lawns from the Narada label. He hasn't come here. He lives in Cyprus now, I think, but uh, his early music was influenced a whole group of young pianists at the time. So,
Sure.
uh, yeah,
Wow. Well, Greg,
yeah,
it's been a real privilege just
yeah.
getting to talk to you
Uh,
and finally meeting you for the first time. Is there anything that you want to promote or share, kind of give a plug to before we get off here today?
well, no, nothing in particular. It's just, I keep making more music. So, if you can listen on Spotify or Apple Music, it helps me. Every spin, every little bit helps. So, if people are interested in what I'm doing, take a listen. Um, Also, this has been a thing on Facebook now. If you buy a CD, it's equivalent to like 5,000 spins on Spotify. So Spotify doesn't pay a lot, but
No, they don't.
everything helps. So I'm not picky, but yeah, if you're interested in the music of indie independent artists, do what you can to support them because it helps them make more music.
Yes, it does.
Mhm.
Well, thank you, Greg, again for
Yeah,
this
all right.
opportunity to come and talk and just share your story and a little bit about your insight into music.
Yeah.
Because music is just it's free therapy. Let's look at it
Yes.
that way. Yes,
For all of us.
for all of us. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, very nice. Thank you, and we'll see
Okay.
you guys in the next episode.
GreatNonprofits.org is a 501c3 nonprofit. Great Nonprofits helps people focus on making good giving decisions based on socially sourced feedback and reviews. Go to www.greatnonprofits.org and type in your zip code or city to find a charity or nonprofit near you that you can help.